What is up, guys? Your boy Boyo is back, and today I have a video that I've been wanting to make for a really long time. Today we're going to be comparing Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, two of the greatest fantasy series of all time. I've always had this bias against Lord of the Rings because Watch Mojo screwed them over, but I finally got a chance to watch it. I only watched it within the span of about maybe a month and a half. And it really didn't take me that long to watch all three movies. And they're fairly long compared to the Harry Potter movies being almost 3 hours each, and the final movie being 3 hours and 20 minutes long. Which is kind of overdoing it, but yeah, because they're so long, I mean, that's the whole reason I didn't watch the extended edition. By the way, I'm not going to be ranking these based on the spin-off series of the books or the expanded editions. Excuse me. I'm going to be ranking them based off the main series films alone, and that's it. I don't have any interest in reading Lord of the Rings, but I will definitely read the Harry Potter audiobook someday, because I actually grew up with Harry Potter, unlike Lord of the Rings. And so, you guys might already know who's going to win this, especially since I have a bias against Lord of the Rings, and I kind of grew up with Harry Potter. I mean, don't get me wrong at all. Lord of the Rings is not bad by any means. It's actually a damn good series, but it's not really legendary in my opinion. But who fucking cares? So let's compare these two series. Anyway, they are the most popular. They are two of the greatest fantasy series of all time. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to be ranking them based on 5 categories in alphabetical order. And so let's start with the action. Okay, so Harry Potter's action, sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it looks like they're just throwing flashy colors and flashy lights around. Lord of the Rings action, on the other hand, is just all this fucking medieval war, and it's fucking badass. And there's just hard hits all over the place. People fucking throwing bombs, people swinging swords, firing arrows. It's just all this amazing shit. My personal favorite battle from Lord of the Rings is the horseback fight from the Two Towers. I thought that was really awesome. I mean, you got fucking horses being literally thrown off of cliffs and shit, and it's just fucking amazing. And you have these two giant armies colliding, and it kind of reminded me of the final battle from Breaking Dawn, because it had these werewolf creatures fighting and everything. I'm pretty sure they're not werewolves. I don't know what they're called, but they had these dog-like beasts trying to kill people and shit. And that fight was just fucking awesome. And I think another fight that we can all agree that is amazing is Gandalf versus the Barlog. Although one thing I didn't really understand about that fight is how in the fuck did they go from fighting in the fiery pits of some cavern to fighting on top of some random tower? That really didn't make any sense to me. I guess it was because they're flying around, and it must have been a long distance flying battle, because I don't know how you go to the fiery pits of a mountain to battling on some random tower. I mean, maybe the books will explain it, but again, I'm not going to read the books. If anyone can explain that, I'd appreciate that. And Harry Potter, on the other hand, I mean, sometimes the battles are outstanding. You have great battles, like the Battle of Hogwarts and Gandalf versus Lord Voldemort. But yeah, there's like one epic fight per movie, and they're not all outstanding. They're just not always good. Like, the fights in Harry Potter are always a hit and miss, so therefore, I have to say that Lord of the Rings wins the action category. Now, next we got characters. This is going to be the longest segment of this video because I'm comparing 9 pairs of characters. A lot of the characters are very similar, and I put them up into pairs. There's like 9 different pairs that I'm going to be comparing. And so let's just get right on to that. To start out, we got Harry and Frodo. Really, Frodo's kind of weak, but that doesn't really stop him from growing as a character. And you really do get to see Frodo grow throughout the series. I mean, you gotta understand that strength really is not everything when it comes to character. Harry, on the other hand, he's just this really smart guy, and he's really putting up with a lot of pressure. He's putting up with a lot of trauma. He's literally putting up with this evil blue guy with no nose that's hell-bent on killing him. And so you can clearly see that Harry's dealing with a lot of stress. And yeah, I think Harry is kind of easier to relate to. Although I must say, Frodo is low-key a well-developed character, even if he is weak. Next we have Ron and Sam. Obviously, Sam is the stronger one between him and Frodo. He's always keeping his eye on Smigiel, making sure he doesn't pull any sneaky shit. And Sam is kind of a badass, not really as much as a badass as, like, say, Aragorn or Gandalf, but Sam is pretty cool. He's really protective over his friend, and he's really just amazing. Ron, on the other hand, I mean, he's a lovable character, don't get me wrong, but he's also a dork and a dumbass, and I don't really think he's can compare to Sam. Next we got Hermione and Galadriel. Now let's not forget, if it wasn't for Hermione, Ron and fucking Harry would be dead. And honestly, the series could have potentially ended much earlier if it wasn't for Hermione. And Hermione really is a lovable character in every conceivable way. One thing I do appreciate about Galadriel, though, is that she really, really wants to be a warrior, and she doesn't get the chance to be a warrior. She really never gets a chance to shine. And I really think she deserves her own movie, just because she never really got the chance to shine. She never really got the chance to perform and stand out. And I think she deserves her own movie, just so she can have a chance to actually stand out in the series. But still, you can't really compare to Hermione, who is just great in every conceivable way. Now, I know what you're thinking. How the hell is Hermione better when I'm literally saying Galadriel deserves her own movie? Well, here's the thing. Galadriel never got the chance to shine, and therefore she never really got the chance to show off how great of a warrior she could really be, and that's why I think she deserves her own movie. Hermione, on the other hand, has had multiple opportunities to show herself off as a character. Next, we have Dobby and Smigiel. Now, Dobby is a really good friend and everything, but that's really excuse me, that's really all he has going for him as a character, is that he's just a great friend. Smeagol, on the other hand, he's just really, really entertaining to watch. As a matter of fact, I would argue that Smeagol is probably the true main antagonist of Lord of the Rings. And by the way, yes, I'm calling him Smeagol. I don't give a shit, because that's what Frodo and Sam call him in the movies. His name was originally Smeagol. In my head, his name is Smeagol. So I'm going to be calling him Smeagol, not Gollum. I mean, technically both names are canon, but I'm going to be calling him Smeagol. But yes, I think that Smeagol is the true antagonist of Lord of the Rings. Because if you think about it, Sauron doesn't really do much outside of influence people to join his army using the ring. And yes, Sauron is a big threat, but he doesn't really do much outside of influencing people. Smeagol, on the other hand, he's always coming up with these schemes to get the fucking ring from Frodo, and he's always planning to stab him in the back. And, yeah. That's why Smeagol's so fucking entertaining. He's just a sneaky little fucking bastard, and he's so fun to watch. Now, Smeagol, he could have easily screwed over the heroes if he just took the ring from Frodo and just ran off of it, instead of just taking the ring and just dancing around with it. Because if he wouldn't have been so distracted, he wouldn't have been, so easily killed off and knocked into the lava and everything. By the way, I think the final battle in Lord of the Rings is kind of weird if you think about it. I mean, especially the segment between Frodo and Smeagol fighting. The final battle basically plays out like this. I know this action segment is over. I'm just going to talk about this. Basically, you got these two giant armies fighting for like a minute and a half or like 2 minutes, and then the eagles come. The eagles come and they fight off the dragons. They're like, "Oh no, the dragons are here. I think we're gonna be fucked." And then they're like, "Oh no, wait! The eagles, the birds, they've come to save us from the dragons." And then it cuts to Frodo fighting Smeagol. And that fight is kind of weird because, I mean, it's just kind of weird watching Frodo fight with an invisible force, and once he's finally defeated and the ring is destroyed, Sauron's tower collapses, Sauron screams bloody murder, and he's fucking dead. But yeah, I do think Smeagol is a really entertaining character, and I do think he's better than Dobby. His backstory is also kind of cool. He literally killed his friend in pursuit of the ring. Dobby doesn't really have much of a backstory, outside of the fact that he used to be a slave for the Malfoys. But yeah, I do obviously think that Smeagol is a bit better than Dobby. A lot better, actually. Next we got Hagrid and Gimli. Really, Gimli, he's an alright guy. I really think it'd be cooler if we saw him fight more. Hagrid, on the other hand, is just really lovable, really enjoyable character, and he's just fun to be around. There's actually a really big difference between an enjoyable character and a good character. And I do think that Hagrid fits that role of being a really enjoyable character. Who's just overall fun to be around. A good character is just a good person. But I do think Hagrid is better. He's really enjoyable. Gimli, he's really nothing more than an alright comic relief sort of character. Next we have Snape and Aragorn. Now Snape is kind of an asshole, but he's also kind of entertaining to watch. Like, who doesn't love Snape? But, I mean, you can't compare that to a literal fucking badass that is Aragorn, who literally fought and became a king. Aragorn is just fucking awesome. Next we got Dumbledore and Gandalf. That's a tough choice. I would have to say Gandalf is most probably the George Washington of fantasy, because he literally helped fight in the war, and he's just overall a great leader and everything. And Gandalf, he's just fucking awesome, and I don't care, he's a George Washington of fantasy. I don't care what y'all think. But still, I grew up with Dumbledore, and he's just this great wise man, and Dumbledore has taught us many great life lessons, and we will always love Dumbledore. Next, we got the two most sadistic characters from each series, Bellatrix and Saruman. Now, Saruman has got to be the biggest bitch boy in all fucking fantasy. I think Saruman is all talk, no bite. I'm kind of mad that I didn't watch the extended editions, because I didn't really get to see him die, although I did get to see him die. I watched a clip on YouTube, and it's pretty fucking satisfying. I think Saruman is all talk and no bite. He literally, sure, Saruman, he is a big threat, because he's literally building armies and shit for Sauron, but Saruman just has his armies do all the work for him, and we only see him in like 2 fights throughout the whole series. I don't really know that for sure, because I've only watched the regular editions and not the expanded editions. Bellatrix, she's the type of character that you really love to hate, and I really developed a big hatred for her throughout the series. Don't mind my speech fuck-ups, by the way. But yeah, I really developed a big hatred for Bellatrix throughout the series. I mean, think about it. She burned the Weasley house. She killed Sirius Black. She killed Dobby. She tortured Hermione. She tried to kill Jenny and got murdered and called the B word. And her death was really quite satisfying. Like, just all the harm she's caused just finally came back at her, and that was just amazing. But yes, I do think Bellatrix is a better character, even if I do kind of hate her. And finally, we got the two antagonists, Sauron and Voldemort. Voldemort really is a big, overwhelming threat, and he has caused many, many tragedies. And you just gotta love Voldemort's awkward, funny moments. You really do. Sauron, on the other hand, like I said, he doesn't really do much outside of influencing people, and that's really about it. So I do think Voldemort truly is the better antagonist, if I'm being honest with myself. Okay, next up we have emotion. Now, Harry Potter is the obvious and clear winner for this one, because he got so many great scenes that will just have you breaking down, man. Like Dumbledore's funeral, Snape's memories. Now, on the other hand, you got Lord of the Rings. I don't think Lord of the Rings really does a good job at handling death, because every time a major character dies, like with Gandalf and Aragorn, they always bring them back, and that really takes away the emotion that their death scene once had. And they're just not brave enough to kill off major characters. Harry Potter, on the other hand, I think they kill off their characters a bit too much, but again, that really helps you build hatred throughout, for the enemy. And that really is an important element of building up the enemy to be like this totally brutal, cruel motherfucker that you just want to see get their fucking head slammed into the fucking floor. And that really is important. Something I do think Lord of the Rings does well, though, is like building sympathy for characters. Like, I actually felt kind of bad when Frodo lost Gandalf, and he thought he lost him for good, and I wanted to see them reunite. That was one of the main driving points that kept me watching the series, is watching Frodo and Gandalf finally reunite. That was one of the main things that kept me watching, along with Smigiel, who is probably overall my favorite character in the series. But yeah, I wanted to see Frodo and Gandalf reunite at long last, and they did. I mean, it wasn't that satisfying. I mean, really, it was just them having a good laugh. They didn't really interact that much, but still, it was an okay scene. But I do think Harry Potter truly shines in the emotion category. Next up, we have story. Now, the story of Lord of the Rings is very simplistic. You basically have like all these the major members of each race had their own ring, and I think there's like 21 rings in total. And Sauron combined all those rings to or he combined most of them, at least, to where he combined all the powers of all the rings to make one ultimate ring. And he used that ring to build an army to overthrow Middle-earth. And over the course of thousands of years, the ring eventually ends up in the hands of Bilbo. And it's then taken from Gandalf, and Gandalf gives Frodo the task of going to Mordor and heading up to the fires of Mount Doom to destroy the ring once and for all. And with Lord of the Rings, the whole series just has one goal in mind: destroy the ring and stop Sauron. Harry Potter, on the other hand, it just has, each movie has its own very unique plot. Like Goblet of Fire is about the Triwars of Tournament, Order of the Phoenix is about the Ministry fucking over Hogwarts, and so on. But with Harry Potter, he basically got this evil dude named Lord Voldemort, and he's like, oh no, this stupid kid is a threat to my evil tyranny, so me and my friends are gonna go out of our way to hunt down this kid and brutally murder him. And you just gotta watch Voldemort hunt down Harry, and Harry trying to prevent him from doing so. And just watch Harry go through all this stress of being stalked and trying, and literally having some guy chase after him and try to kill him. But I do think Harry Potter is much better in terms of story, because just purely because of the fact that each movie has its own unique plot. And Lord of the Rings, it's just one goal in mind throughout the whole series: destroy the ring and stop Sauron. So yes, Harry Potter wins in the story category. The final category is the world building, and obviously Lord of the Rings wins this because you have like this massive world called Middle-earth. And you got mountains, fields, towers, castles, all this shit. You have all these races. You have goblins, orcs, ents, wizards, and so many things. So many great things. Harry Potter mostly takes place in the UK, and so the world isn't really that big because it's exclusive to one country, really. But the world of Harry Potter is something I think it does well. It's like the whole creativity of the magic is really amazing. But, yes, Harry Potter won in more categories than Lord of the Rings did. And so for that, I really do think Harry Potter wins. Don't get me wrong, Lord of the Rings is a damn good series, but I grew up with Harry Potter, and it's just something I can't let go of so easily. And if you want to be offended that I like one series better, if you want to be offended that I have an unwanted opinion, and so be it. I mean, leave all the nasty comments you will. I don't really think I did anything that warrants you guys to be pissed off at me. But please just take my opinions as you will. If you choose to spew nasty comments, then I'm going to have a field day and I'm just going to troll you Lord of the Rings fans. But again, I don't think I did anything worthy enough for you guys to be pissed off at me. But yes, those are really my opinions. I think Harry Potter is better. Because I grew up with it. Don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily love Lord of the Rings. It is a great series. I do want to watch The Hobbit one of these days. It's just that they only, for some stupid reason, they only have 1 or 3 Hobbit movies on HBO Max, and I'll probably keep getting into the Lord of the Rings lore and universe. I won't read the books, so I can't really say shit on the whole lore of it. But I do want to watch The Hobbit, so if I can ever find a 3-pack of the Hobbit movies at Walmart or something, I definitely will watch it. But yeah, those are my opinions. I really hope I didn't make anybody mad, but if I did, then fuck it. But I hope you guys are having a nice day. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really wanted to make it for a long time. If you liked it, leave a like if you want. You can subscribe. I don't give a shit. I don't make movie reviews often, but if you're into food reviews and Nintendo content, then go ahead and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.